Hey guys, it's Biggs. Today's topic, we're going to talk about something that frustrates me to absolutely no end. LED lighting. Now, I know LED lighting is the new wave and it's the way everybody's going, but when you're old and cantankerous like the Biggs, you know, you went through the phase where you're basically lighting your tanks using T12 fluorescent tubes, the big giant tar ballast ones, and we didn't care about energy. And then in the late 80s, metal halide came out on the scene, which made us just used way more energy, but we could grow some pretty explosive plants. And I was doing orchids back then as well as heavy duty planted tanks, and I was doing them, and I was also using high pressure sodium. And my big tank, the 750, that the one we've talked about before, it was about 21 years old before we tore it down, but it was running with lighting of mercury vapor, and they were retired street lights. I had a gentleman that worked at Hydro. Hydro, it's our electric company here in Manitoba, because all our electricity comes from hydro or water from dams. And he'd given me a couple of these fixtures that were basically destined for the dump. And those fixtures were amazing for the light quality that they gave. Not only that, I was able to take those big giant domed, trying to imagine how big they are. They're pretty big. They're about 16 inches across, and they had about I think it was about 150 or 175, maybe it was a 250 watt bulb. And I bought new bulbs, and then I wired the ballast for the unit, so the units were above the big tank, and then the ballasts I actually wired and mounted underneath the tank. And they became my kind of day, night, and temperature up and down. And they increased the temperature by a couple of degrees and dropped it by a couple of degrees. And they're basically my very primitive form of heating that big tank, because a plywood tank retains heat really, really well. And they were awesome. The one thing that LED does give that is the same benefit that metal halide, mercury vapor, sodium, those type of high discharge bulbs and quartz halogens and stuff, those type of bulbs give, that fluorescent can never give, is what we call the shimmer. And that's where you get that dappling effect on your substrate and stuff that mimics sunlight. And for that, they are absolutely breathtaking and stunning. The problem being is a lot of these units come with a really hefty price tag. And these three units beside me are the reason that we're doing this video today. Now, this one's an older unit. This one's an older Marineland one. This was basically when Marineland, they used to use me as their tester years ago, and they used to send me products for evaluations back in the day before the guys, the key players all moved on to form Cobalt. And they were sending me these things, and this was actually the second generation. The first generation, all of them failed within about 8 months because they basically failed at this source here. Then they all went to the little piggyback, and the piggybacks, excuse me, we just basically, they all wired to the ballast. The ballast went to a plug, and then the other end went to the piggyback. And there's a way of keeping your power source nice and safe and easy to work with and stuff, and change it out and whatnot. But they worked okay. The color wasn't the best for them for what I was trying to do. And then we went into some more different style of fixtures. This one here, my good buddy over at Spencer Jack sold these fixtures. He had higher end ones, which were all metal and everything like that, but they were more expensive. This was a very, very entry line, so we knew what we were getting. But the really, really cool thing about this one here, and I can't remember the brand of it, I will look it up or get the information from him and put it on there. But the really, really cool thing about these ones is you pop the end caps off, and then you can actually pop individual lighting cells in and out of the unit and create your own color spectrum. So if you're doing more plants, you want to put more plant-based ones. If you're doing saltwater and you want to put more blue emphasis or something like that, or corals, you can put the individual cartridges into these fixtures. Really, really cool, and overall pretty inexpensive to do it that way. And it was like a DIY fixture, and you could count and make it what you want it to be. This one here was one of the much more expensive ones out of all the three here. And this one is from Hagen. This is one of their Fluval ones, which is their top of the line brand. It's an all metal fixture. It's all aluminum, so you can see all the fans and everything like that. The entire fixture becomes a heat sink to dissipate the heat. Now the problem about it is, why am I talking about these things? All three of these have failed already. Now LED for me has only been on the scene for a few years. And when you're buying anything LED, it's like you go and buy a new LED TV. It'll tell you that it's going to run for, 20,000 hours or 100,000 hours. Break that down and do the math, people. These things are supposed to last longer than our lifetimes ever. So why am I spending, this is like a $500 fixture. This was like a $350, $400 fixture. And this one was only about $129. And that's in kind of Canadian prices. And all of these have failed already. Now granted, this one's been in storage for a fair while and stuff like that. And before I say it's completely failed, I do have other power supplies, because it might not be the lights that are failing, it might not be the internal mechanisms, it could be just the power supply, it could be a myriad of other things. But I always save those parts and stuff like that because I'm not an electrician. I'm gonna try and do my best to rule out what it is, and when it's actually done, well then I'll get rid of it. Or maybe I'll actually phone one of my buddies that's an electrician and maybe send it over his way and see if we can do something with it first. Because when you got several tanks, $400, $500 for a light for that tank, sorry, that's completely out of line for me, unless you are doing a really high-end planted tank or saltwater with corals and coralline algae and whatnot, and then you need that really intense light or heavy or certain spectrum for growing those things. But just for a basic aquarium and stuff like that, for growing basic plants, low light plants, or an African cichlid tank with all the rock work, any of these things are fine, and I wouldn't waste the money on anything higher. Now, there's one that I will say for LED, clearly you can tell I'm not a fan of LED because I've had nothing but negative experiences with it. But this little one unit from Cobalt, the mini LED. Now, I apparently have two different generations of them. And this one, the box for this one is the second generation one. And I don't know why they changed it, but they obviously changed it for a reason. But I've had one of these running on a little tank behind me on the ground here. That's a little tank that literally just kind of got forgotten about. It had some shrimp in it and some rabbit snails and some plants, and it's just been sitting there kind of running forever and completely ignored and forgotten about. But that LED light's been on that thing for well over a year without any fail whatsoever. So I'm pretty happy with that little unit, especially when it comes with the right price tag. Now these are, LEDs are nice and bright, but here's the first generation. I don't know if you can see it at all. And there's the second generation. The entire thing's lit up. Ooh, pretty cool. Now I'm going to just turn them off quickly so you guys see the difference now that you're all blind and seeing spots. But first generation and second generation. Night and day difference between them. I don't know if the spectra, I never actually even checked. I honestly only noticed this yesterday or the day before when I was doing some filming with Larry. And I had to use the light fixture, so I didn't want to pull the one off the tank. I went and got a couple out of the other garage, and this one was running in the other room. And I was like, hey, they're totally different. They look identical on the outside. The clips are the same. Everything about them's the same, except for this part. So pretty cool. We'll see where that goes. But I like them. I'm going to keep using those ones because they're inexpensive. They last a long time. For me, I value that dollar figure that I'm going to spend on that item, and all of us do that. We'll all evaluate and say, okay, how much is it for this? Oh, it's $100. $100. Okay, I'm going to figure out, yeah, okay, it's worth it for $100, and then we'll do that. If it was $150, you might say no. If it was $200, you're definitely out. Whatever. Everybody evaluates things a little bit differently. When it comes to my high-end planted tank, I'm still using T5s. I love the T5 fixtures on that. I was able to buy high-end light bulbs at wholesale price, so I bought a case of them. So I still have 12 and 12 bulbs. I still have almost 24 bulbs, so I'm going to be using T5 for a little while. And I like the look of it. I like the color of it. Everything's good. I do have that really cool, awesome fixture from the guys at Cobalt that I haven't used yet, but I have a plan for that, and that's coming up with a paludarium type thing down the road and stuff. And it is LED, but it's 250 watts of LED. It's like intense LED, and it's like $1,000 fixture. And this is right up there with like the high-end Cobalt ones up there with like Radion and some of those other ones that these guys are buying for these really high-end reef tanks. And if you're spending $500 to $1,000 on a light for your tank, obviously you need it for the type of animals that you want to keep, and that's really important. But if you're going to spend that kind of money, I think your evaluation might be a little bit different than some other people, but also you're looking at that item better hold up a lot longer than these things here, in my opinion. Maybe that's only mine, but maybe yours is different, but at least that's my take. So today, LED lighting. I really wanted to open up the discussion with you guys. I expect all of you to educate me on LED lighting because I'm old and I'm not very open to change on some things. And when it gets to the lighting fixtures, before when we used to just use shop lights and regular bulbs, and we all had fish rooms and everybody was totally content with that, and then it's changed and now we've got all these modern bulbs, and I understand that. Nice modern bulbs with real good spectrum or something like that that provides something that we need or we want, or provide something better for the plants or its inhabitants in the tank, that's worth spending a little bit more money, and I think you'll all agree. But just spending money for the sake of spending money and not getting the results or the value out of it that I feel, no, I'm not happy. This one here is an older fixture, so I'm not overly upset in the fact that, you know, it's failing. And again, I will check it with a power supply. This one here was inexpensive, and every one of these units can pop out. So if I were to buy another fixture, if it ends up being the fixture that's failing, I can use each one of those little LED units. That's providing massive value. So this is, in my opinion, even though it's fairly inexpensive compared to some of the other models, this one here is an excellent, excellent unit for that purpose. However, this guy right here, when I spend, you know, $400 or $500 on a light fixture, and this is their brand new one, granted this is probably, I'm going to hazard it's about 2.5 years old, but 2.5 years old, on for 6 hours a day on a timer, nobody touches it or anything like that, and it's failing in that time period, this thing should have outlasted me easily. And that I don't like. That's not me shooting down any individual company. Every company has its own merits and have its own products, and maybe I have one that's maybe it's a lemon. Mine's particularly a bad model for issues. Don't know, don't say. But I'm just not happy with that one. Now I get it. LED lighting, a lot more efficient, doesn't generate the heat. I understand there's all sorts of benefits to it. I understand that, and I'm not saying I'm against it. I'm just not happy with it. I'm not happy with the results I get with it. You know, you're going from a T12 bulb, which used to use at least 2 tubes, either cool white or warm white or something like that. Daylight, but you know, we were using those. But those T12 bulbs were 40 watts a tube. That's 80 watts running 12 hours a day. You know, that adds up, especially when you're running several of them around your fish room. And then we went down to T8s, and they were, what, 34 or 32 watts a bulb? So, you know, a noticeable change in difference, but also the tube was a lot smaller, so you had to use bigger reflectors and stuff. And then now we've gone down, we went to T8s, now we're down to T5s, and T5s like the diameter of your pinky finger, and that's what I'm running everywhere here. I do understand the energy savings. I noticed even without the aquariums that my energy bills can constantly go up, and I'm sure they are in your areas, and it doesn't matter whether I'm getting my power from hydro or you're getting it from coal or steam or whatever. Fact of life is, life changes. We might not like it. Biggs doesn't like a lot of it, but it's going to keep changing. The world's going to keep evolving. It's going to keep changing, and we just got to kind of keep up with the change. However, if we're going to keep changing, that's fine. I can appreciate that. We're going to constantly change. We're going to constantly evolve. But why would we accept what I would refer to as subpar or junk product? And I'm not saying either of these three are junk product. Maybe they've worked from the manufacturing standpoint, they've worked their time period or not. I don't know. But when something is told to me it's going to last 10,000 hours and it barely lasts 1/10 or 1/20 of that, to me that's failing. That's failing the consumer. And I know in today's modern world, that's kind of par for the course. Nothing we buy lasts. Everything's made out of garbage. Everything's made out of plastic. Everything's cheap, 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 but high in price. That's just the way it's going to be. So hopefully we smarten up one day. I know Biggs will be dead long before then. He ain't going to change. My love affair for LED lighting doesn't stop there. When we were looking at this house, our new house, this was one of the selling features to us, was this bulkhead that wrapped around the entire living room, kitchen. It was very modern, had all these fancy LED lighting in it and stuff like that. It just looked really, really cool. However, in the 5 years we've been here, I have to maintain about 30 or 40 of these on hand at all times just to be able to keep our living room lit. There's 3 alone just there, right there in the kitchen one already. And I do it about twice a year. I get a big box of them. I have to order them from eBay because that's where the guy got them from before. And if I don't order them from eBay, then I'm getting them from
some local light supplier and they want $50 to $60 for a fixture. It's just borderline unrealistic. But as I've shown you with the other lighting downstairs, I don't have a lot of faith in the fact that if I were to spend a lot of money on these LED fixtures, that I'd get any more life out of them. I'm replacing probably about 30 of these, maybe a bit more, every year. Here's those light fixtures. As they say, I get a big box, order a big bulk quantity of them, get them from eBay. They end up costing about $4 or $5 a fixture by the time I clear customs, get them into the country. They're pretty basic, small power supply, aluminum heat sink, 3 bulbs. I buy them based on the temperature of the bulbs, so I don't have warm white and cool white in the same room and stuff like that. So they all look the same. They're easy to fix with their butterfly clips. Just the only thing I'll watch out is like pulling them out of the ceiling. It's like pulling out a live mouse trap. You never know when you're going to get pinched. But
so let me tell you, you guys tell me about your experiences with LED lighting. I need some more education on it clearly. I want you guys to help me out. Send me some comments. Let's get the discussion going. Thanks, guys.